Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Should you keep your money in a high yield savings account? Well, we'll talk about that in today's video because keeping your money in the wrong place could cost you thousands. So I want to make sure in this video that you make the right decision for yourself. Now, the problem I want to tackle today is that most people are losing money without realizing it because they're banking with local banks, like it may be Bank of America, it could be Wells Fargo, it could be Chase. And these banks nowadays, or forever since I can remember, they offer really crappy interest rates. It might even be your credit union. They offer you a 0.01 interest rate, which is practically nothing, right? And when this happens, when you're not earning enough interest on your savings, inflation, it starts eroding your savings. So the solution I want to present to you here is a strategy where you can outpace inflation and still let your money make more money and not just let it shrink sitting in a regular bank account. So it's a high yield savings account for you. What does it mean? Is that interest the only thing that matters? Let's go over a few of those facts here with you. If you find this video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and check the links in the description to help you with your financial journey and build your wealth fast. Over the last few years, of course, if you don't know anything about high yield savings accounts, if you're new to this, then high yield savings accounts have been the go-to place for storing your hard-earned money. Now, when I first started using high yield savings accounts, the interests were pretty low, right? They were back in 2021 where I signed up with Markets by Goldman Sachs, and the interest rate back in the day was around 1.1%. But all the way up to 2024, the interest rates soared all the way to 4%, 5%. I even saw some banks out there offering very high, like 6%, 7%, crazy amounts of interest. And when a bank is offering you that much interest, to me, it just turns into a red flag, right? Like if it's too good to be true, then I start questioning. It's like, okay, so what's going on here? So I start going really deep into the footprint, the requirements, so that's just some insight there to help you, of course, make the best decision for yourself so you don't have to worry about your money. Now, when, for example, right, if you had $10,000 in savings at a 5% APY, you can earn $500, $400 per year without really doing anything. Now, if you have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, let's say $50,000, now you're getting in the thousands of just passive income without you having to literally move a finger other than just having your money there, working your money and letting it making you more money, right? So that's the beautiful thing about having cash. Now, what worked for you or for most people in 2024 might not be the best thing in 2025 because high interest rates now are going down, but are they still worth it? Now let's talk about the risks, of course. Now, here's the three biggest problems with high yield savings accounts in 2025. Because while useful, these accounts aren't a perfect solution, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, I've talked about many of these points in the channel. There's a plethora of videos and reviews and insights to help you, of course, in your journey. But the truth is that rates are dropping. And just because it's 5% today, it doesn't mean that it will last until next week or next month. We don't know what's going to happen. It all depends on how the economy is performing and what the Federal Reserve ends up doing. So this is actually one of the downsides of high yield savings accounts because they're not constant, right? Like they're not CD, certificates of deposit, which we'll talk about here in a few seconds. Also, when it comes to the downsides, and one of the biggest problems is that inflation still eats away at your money, reducing your real return. So inflation could be 4%, 5%, and if your interest rate now it's a little lower than 5% or 4%, which is the inflation rate, assuming, of course, then your money starts shrinking and it doesn't keep up with inflation. So one of the things that I've learned with high yield savings accounts is that it at least helps you keep pace with inflation and it maintains the value of your money as opposed to it rotting and shrinking over time. Now, most people also misuse high yield savings accounts, either keeping too much in their high yield savings accounts or too little. So case in point, if you have a lot of money, like more than your emergency fund, more than a year worth of expenses, then maybe at that point you're keeping a little bit too much in your high yield savings account, in my personal opinion. Hey, personal finance is personal. I'm just here giving you what I think as a random guy online on the internet, trying to help you make the best decision for yourself. All right, so high yield savings account as a tool is not a wealth building strategy. I'm saying this because there are other options out there to help you in your wealth building journey. And the high yield savings account, it's not the best option. So how do you use these accounts the right way? So if you want to benefit from this, you want to make sure that you use it for the short-term savings only. Maybe it is for your emergency fund. Maybe it is for a down payment on a house or your wedding. For short-term things like that, then it's a good idea. One of the lessons that I've learned is that if you need your money in less than 5 years, then a high yield savings account is a good idea. If you don't need your money and you can store it for more than 5 years, there are other ways, like a brokerage account might be better, and we're gonna go over this here in a few seconds. So use it for short-term savings only. What I've seen is most people keep at least personally 3 months of emergency. Personally, I am very comfortable, and my wife are very comfortable with 6 months worth of your expenses. So another thing to use your high yield savings accounts smartly is automating your deposit and pairing it with a line of credit to avoid overdraft fees. So for example, right? So some banks allow you to link your checking to your savings account or open a line of credit. So in case there is an unexpected bill that goes into your checking account that you were obviously not expecting. So if you want to avoid fees, then what I suggest you do is you link your high yield savings to your checking. So that way your checking takes money from your high yield savings in case there's an unexpected bill that you have. Or another option is, of course, to open a line of credit. So that way your checking takes money from your line of credit and then you just pay it off when you transfer the money or when you have the money. So at the end of the day, bottom line here is that a high yield savings account is a financial safety net. It's not a wealth building account. So if high yield savings accounts aren't the best place to store your cash long term beyond 5 years, then what are other options? What are other options where you can put your money? Now, there's 3 options, actually 4 that I want to identify here with you, and I just thought about that. The number one is, of course, certificates of deposit. Now, certificates of deposit or CDs are essentially a tool. It's an account where you can put your money for a fixed period of time. It can be 3 months, a year, 9 months, 5 years. The longer the time horizon, usually the higher the interest rate will be. So for instance, if you want to put $1,000 in a CD for 3 months, then you might earn nowadays like 4%. Let's just make that assumption. If you want to put the same $1,000 in a CD for 5 years, you may earn 5%, 4.5%. But then after 5 years, of course, you can come back and take the money. There are other ways to access your money if you put it in a CD. There are some banks that offer no penalty CDs. So it just really depends on what you need and how you want to take advantage of those certificates of deposit. Now, a couple of other options, of course, is you have the money market accounts. I talked about money market accounts here in the channel a little while ago. I made a comparison with these and high yield savings. So money market accounts give you a high withdrawal limit and also sometimes better rates. Now the high yield savings accounts had a very much high interest rate. There really wasn't much of a difference, especially when a high yield savings account also allowed you to have some quote unquote checking features, not so much writing checks, but using it as a way to unlimited withdrawals, for instance, right? There are many banks out there that offer that type of option. So money market account is another option where you can keep a high interest rate. You do need many times a minimum balance with money market accounts. You might need maybe $2,000, $3,000 when it comes to high yield savings accounts nowadays, especially with online banks. Many times you don't need a minimum deposit or a minimum balance. Now, another option that you have is treasury bills, which are government backed, currently paying around 5% nowadays in 2025. This may go down, will go up or down depending again on how the economy is doing. And then, of course, you have your regular, what most people know about when it comes to investing, and that is the brokerage accounts. The S&P 500, which is personally my favorite way of investing money into the future. You can invest in index funds, ETFs for long-term growth, which averages about 7%, taking into account inflation over time. So the S&P 500 is one of the investment strategies that is recommended by Warren Buffett himself. He just says, keep it there long term, buy when the economy is doing well, buy when the economy is going down. It doesn't matter, just keep buying. And over time, you'll end up on a positive return with S&P 500. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if you have any questions. I'm also going to be linking a few links in the description where you can get started with these accounts. Maybe you want to start dipping your toes in S&P 500. I'm going to leave a link in the description where you can get started with that. and also a couple of other options for you to help you in your financial journey. Now, your emergency fund belongs in a savings account, but your wealth belongs elsewhere. And these are the three options that I mentioned. So if you're still unsure, if you're still kind of like, ah, man, I don't know, like, what should I do? So let's tackle some three biggest questions that I've identified. And that is, what is the best high yield savings account right now? Alex, you're telling me that high yield savings accounts are a good option for your emergency fund. So one thing that I've learned is that there is no such a thing as the best high yields. Like the best one, it's going to be the one that is best for you, the one that gives you the warm and fuzzy feeling. And some of the parameters that I personally look at is, of course, a good interest. It has got to be competitive. And also, you got to have easy access to your money. And also at the same time, it's got to have good reviews, decent history. And of course, at the end of the day, the one that gives you the warm and fuzzy feeling where you say, okay, this is one where I feel the most comfortable. So after you get a good interest, after you get decent reviews from customers, and you have good access, safety, and good access to your money, then at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the level of trust and comfort that you have in an organization. So I'm actually going to be, again, linking a few of these options. Or you can go to the channel and pick the one that seems the most interesting to you and make the best decision for yourself. Now, another question that I get is, are high yield savings accounts better than CDs? And the truth is, for short-term savings, yes, that's because CDs lock up your money. So your money goes into the CD, and then you technically, quote unquote, you can access it without penalties for a fixed period of time, depending on what you choose. But when it comes to CDs, the main benefit is that CDs can offer slightly better rates, but lack the liquidity. Now, when it comes to liquidity, this can be a word that it's a little confusing, but when it comes, liquidity essentially means how easy can you access the cash. A high yield savings account, or your checking account, for instance, right? That's like 100% liquid. It's like super liquid. Like it's just like water, right? Because you literally go and get your money through an ATM. It's like super easy to access. Now your 401k, now it's not as liquid, is it? Because now you have to go through a process to access your money. So that's what we mean with liquidity. Liquidity. So CDs offer slightly better rates, but lack the liquidity. They're not as liquid as high yield savings accounts. Now, when it comes to losing money, can you lose money? Now, technically, if your bank, and I hope that this is the case 100% of the time, if your bank is FDIC insured, then you wouldn't lose your money. And of course, assuming that you are within the thresholds of the FDIC insurance. Now, one little piece of insight I want to share here with you is that if your bank only offers up to $250,000 FDIC insurance. Now, there are ways that you can increase that insurance all the way up to $1.25 million. You can add beneficiaries, and you can essentially tell the bank what to do with your money in case something happens to you. That's something that you can take advantage of in case you need a higher FDIC balance. Also, your money won't go down, but inflation reduces your purchasing power when high yield savings accounts are a little bit lower and inflation is a little bit lower. But usually what happens is if inflation is high, then the rate of high yield savings accounts are high. If inflation is low, then the high yield savings account rates are a little lower. So that's just kind of how it goes. Now, when it comes to, of course, it's not recommended to keep too much cash just there sitting idle. So what's next, right? So here's how you can use your high yield savings accounts the smart way to kind of start putting everything together. Keep only 3 to 6 months of expenses and savings depending on your situation. As I mentioned previously, consider high return options like T-bills or index funds for long term. We're talking beyond 5 years. Automate your savings and optimize your accounts. This is something that I love, by the way, that can absolutely change your savings grows when you start automating everything. So your money should always be working for you, not just sitting out there under your mattress or in your closet or your little safety box.